I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, August the 16th, brought to you in part by Night Latch Group. That's Andy Cunningham in Laverne, Oklahoma, but he can help you wherever you're at. All types of crop insurance, all types of livestock policy, especially your gross margin policies, where he can show you how you can hedge your corn and your cattle in one easy policy. Hang on to your investment. Go to nightlatch.net. Cattle not grading, and why is that? Well, we're on tight supplies right now. Maybe not as tight as we have been, maybe not as tight as we will be a little bit later as far as market ready cattle, but the cattle are not grading right now. Some people think maybe it's gotten too hot. Well, it gets hot just about every year in July. It seems like it to me, the last 51 years that I've been around, but that could be part of it. You know, the cattle don't grade as well when they're hot, but they're grading significantly lower than they typically grade this type of year. Several percentage points lower. Maybe the cattle didn't have as much of that old crop corn through their ration as they were being fed. That could be part of it. That would pull down on their grading a little bit. Packers have also pulled really hard on Iowa of recent, last month especially, really hard on Iowa. And of course, we always see more negotiated trade in Iowa because they sell negotiated, and people say you can't get your price, you can't get paid for really top quality cattle. Well, they've got the best cattle in the nation in Iowa, and they sell the most cattle negotiated. So I don't know if that's really true or not, but they pulled hard. Of course, they always sell more negotiated in Iowa, but they've been pulling more cattle out of Iowa in comparison to normal and in comparison to the other 5 areas last month, because they were wanting the best grading cattle, and the grading was slipping a little bit, but now it's really slipped back. And we'll see if the Packers start paying a considerable premium for top grading cattle. They don't really like to have to do that because they don't want to show how much they can possibly give for cattle, but it's something that we'll look through as we go forward. We got a cattle on feed report coming out this Friday. The average of the analyst guesses came out already this week, and it looks to be a bullish report, but the heck of it is they've got it estimated to be so bullish it's going to be hard to live up to that, and we know that sometimes we don't. But on feed estimates for August the 1st, they've got those pegged at 98.4% of a year ago. Placements they've got pegged all the way down at 94.5% of a year ago. I don't know if we can hit that or not. Our auction receipts were running pretty good because of the lofty prices, and people just kept bringing cattle to town. They kept bringing them, even cattle that they hadn't had as long as they normally would. They were already making so much money, they just decided to bring them because they were worried that the market might peter out on them. So I think that placement number is really, really down there, and I think that could be setting us up for a bearish report. But marketings is down big, 94.8%, because we know the Packers have really scaled back on their chain speeds, and they haven't been harvesting near as many cattle as usual. I don't know if that's already showing up, but all 3 of those figures would be the lowest in the last 5-year average. And that marketing's figure, the 94.8% of a year ago, would be the lowest since 2016. So really, really bullish estimates on the cattle on feed report, which scares me that we won't be able to make that, especially the placement figure there. Western Video Market had the second of their 2-day sale in Old Cheyenne on Tuesday, and it was another humdinger. I told you about those all-time record-setting prices on yearlings on Monday. Well, they sold mostly calves on Tuesday. I want to tell you about the ZN Ranch, and that's 90 miles west of Laramie, Wyoming there. They sold 130 head of weaned steers, ranch-raised weaned steers there, to weigh 370 pounds in December. No bells and whistles on them, just all the shots and straightened up and everything, but 130 head of weaned steer calves weighed 370 in December at 423. That's got to be a record of some type there. Of course, a couple weeks ago we saw all-time record set by Superior at their Winnemucca sale there with some 415, I believe, pound steer calves at $4. Well, of course, the market just keeps getting better all the time. Western Video Market sold a group of 420 pound weaned steers at $405, so they knocked that out of the park. And then they also had some groups as heavy as 5 1/4, bringing $3.50 a pound. So new all-time record highs, and that's nothing strange. We've seen all-time record highs set at some level, at some place and time, at some auction or some video sale or something somewhere, just about every day for the last several months here. But another thing that happened at Western Video Market, which is kind of neat, and it was as a touching tribute there. Terrell Vineyard is a rancher that recently lost his life to a lightning strike out working. Now, man, you hate that. You know your time's up whenever that comes along. But Van Newkirk Herefords out of Oshkosh, Nebraska, they donated one of their fancy replacement heifers to the sale, and give kudos to Western Video Market for taking the time to do that whenever they've got satellites running, they've got time running on everything, and they've got a lot of people up there working. But they stopped and didn't really stop the sale, they just added in a lot for Terrell Vineyard Memorial there. And they sold that Van Newkirk fancy replacement heifer for $28,000 as a memorial to Terrell Vineyard there. Plus they had additional add-ons after that. So kudos to everybody involved that did anything there. Let's talk about your board for Tuesday. August live cattle futures were down 65 cents at 179.10. October down 70 at 179.97. Your back months on live cattle were down 37 to down 80. Your live cattle contracts were down more than your feeder cattle contracts, which were also lower, but not nearly as much. But corn was down big, so we would have thought we would have got a shot in the arm from feeder cattle, and maybe we did because they weren't down near as much as the live cattle. But August feeder cattle down 35 cents at 245.87. September down 35 also at 249.77. Back months were mostly down around 30, but down 35 to as much as up a nickel, which was the farthest out traded month. Fat cattle trade, we did have some negotiated trade in the Northern Plains on a Tuesday. I'm going to ask you the same question I ask you every time we see early week trade. Why do packers come after cattle at steady money on a Tuesday? Because they're short of cattle. We could have held them up a little bit and maybe tried to get some more market, but man, the market's up there so good now. People keep thinking that we're going to get over $2 a pound negotiated cash. It's just too hard to gain a buck, guys. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it or not. Sure love to see it, but especially whenever the try is not really in the few cattle feeders that sell negotiated. They're liking the price, especially in the Northern Plains. They're liking the basis, with August live cattle sitting at 179.10 and they're selling the cattle at 188. They're liking that pretty well. Iowa sold 5,800 head on Tuesday negotiated, and that's confirmed, from 187 to 188, and some 295 dressed. Nebraska sold about 800 head confirmed on Tuesday at 188 and 295 dressed. Of course, Kansas and Texas, they haven't even thought about selling anything yet. Probably won't do that till late Friday. But we did have a brick and mortar sale, our biggest one in the country, Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. Buddy Gary Marks give us some information out of there. He said they had a more moderate offering, and he said that the finish on the cattle was pretty good, better than it's been for a few weeks there. But your packers kind of kept their hand pretty close to their chest. Didn't really show how much they really wanted the cattle, but they got in and bid on the cattle. And the conventional cattle, just the straight up cattle, were steady to $2 higher for the bulk, selling from 184 to 186 1/4 with a few groups up to 190 and a quarter. Some green cattle that weren't quite finished, and some of those farmer feeders thought they could add a little bit of a finish to them. They went back to feed from 185 to 190, and not necessarily any lighter than the others, just not quite as finished. The program cattle, mostly non-implanted, but they did have a few drug-free cattle. They were $1 to $3 lower. So packers did not show that they really wanted the top cattle in the program cattle, but they still sold from 190 to 195.50, with a few groups up to 198. So that's better than what we're seeing in the country, guys. Your majors were fairly active, buying several loads in there, and Gary said it looked like they were working with a 295 dress bid, and that's what we saw trade in the country on Tuesday. Greg Ryken at Yankton at Stockman's Livestock Market is having his barbecue feeder special here today on Wednesday. 4,500 head expected, and really top quality feeders there, and they'll be sold in big uniform groups. Let's talk about their box beef cutout values. Up significantly on both Monday and Tuesday. Maybe they finally broke out and going to start getting some higher. Choice cuts up $1.76 on Tuesday afternoon at $307.26. Selects up $2.58 at $283.03. Slaughter, a little bit disappointing, but maybe catching up a little bit. 244,000 harvest expected through the first 2 days of the week. That's 3,000 less than last week, 4,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. MLS tubs. They are really proud of what they're doing there, and they're available pretty much anywhere you can go. We've got the August distributor spotlight on one of the dealers that handles a lot of MLS tubs. It's Hometown Animal Health in Memphis, Missouri, guys. And if you're in that area or even over into Illinois, be sure and get to them, get what you need of the MLS tubs. MLS has all kinds of tubs for all kinds of needs. For more information, go to mlstubs.com. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction. Late in the day on Tuesday, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through the middle 12 states, setting at 245.69, basically steady, but down 6 cents a hundred. So not much, pretty much close to steady there, holding its own, but not gaining any more ground on Tuesday. Not to say that it won't with some big Wednesday sales, but still pretty good ticket for an 800-pound steer on a 7-day moving average, working towards 246, guys. Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada. My buddy Jack Payne there, he's going to have a pretty good sale here today on Wednesday. About 400 head of butcher cows. He says they're coming from a long ways away. He's got a good butcher cow sale there. And then several replacement cattle in there. He's got some bred cows, got some pairs, got some really fancy open replacement quality heifers there. And then about 1,000 head of feeder cattle. So if you're interested in that, get on to dvauction.com and look up Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada. Talk about your sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri sold 2,200 head through the ring, and another 531 head through their in-house video they do with help from DV Auction. Awfully good sale. It's just a little higher every week there around West Plains. Had a lot of moisture of late. They were getting really dry earlier in the summer, but here late they are starting to get some moisture. It's greening up, but they're going to be short of hay. Feeders steady to $2 higher. Calves $3 to $6 higher. And a typical late summer offering there at West Plains. A lot of small groups, several of them unweaned, a lot of intact bulls in there, but the buyers still got right after them and bid on those cattle. Don't forget, here on Friday evening on DV Auction, West Plains, Ozarks Regional Stockyard is going to have a special cow sale in the evening, starting at 5 o'clock in the evening. They've got an awfully good offering there. They've got 300 crossbred cows off one deal. About half of them are going to be heavy bred, and about half of them are going to be pairs. So be sure and check that out. They got lots of nice young black bred cows and several nice groups of first calf heifers. So be sure and check that out on dvauction.com, Ozarks Regional Stockyard, West Plains, Missouri, this Friday, 5 o'clock in the evening. Talk about your national beef wire stick out sale of the day. It was Denny Rezac, Livestock Commission, St. Mary's, Kansas there. DV Auction broadcaster forever, guys. Had about 1,800 head of feeders there. And check out these feeder steers that I pulled out of Cattle Market Central. 195 head of 6-weight steers, average 666 at 266.26. That's a lot of sixes there, but they sold really well. 141 head of 7-weight steers, average 756, and the average weight or average price of 251.82. 233 head of 8-weight steers in St. Mary's, Kansas, had an average weight of 842 pounds. Weighted average price $243.11. 746 head. That's a bunch of 9-weight steers for one sale barn, guys. 746 head of 9-weight steers. Rezac Livestock Commission, St. Mary's, Kansas. They average 955 pounds with a weighted average price of $228.45, including a 239 head string in one whack. Weighed 999 pounds. Bring $223.50. I'm not a mathematician, but those cattle bring almost $2,235 per head. How about Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma? About 2,000 head on offer. They had the bulk of their feeders sell in the heavy yearling feeders too. 492 head of them. Weighed 866 pounds. Now these are different deals put together with a weighted average price of $239.17, and 237 head of 9-weight steers, average 911 at $235.06. Don't forget, we're going to have another feeder flash beaver clash coming up here on September the 5th, the day after Labor Day. They've already got a couple thousand yearlings consigned for that sale. And Farapes, Dr. Rodrigo, is going to be hosting a dinner and a presentation by yours truly on Labor Day evening. They would like you to RSVP and let them know you're coming, but the public is welcome. Of course, it doesn't cost anything, and it'll be the day before the Feeder Flash Beaver Clash Feeder Special there at Beaver County Stockyards. Give you a couple individual quotes. How about Glacial Lakes Livestock in Watertown, South Dakota? They sell 57 steers, weigh 969 at 237. Big time quote. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Lolly Brothers Livestock Market in Macon, Missouri. Longtime DV Auction broadcaster there. They had several outstanding quotes there, including 65 head that weighed 832 at 261. But the one I thought was the top quote for the day was 68 steers, weighed 722 at 287. That's your feeder flash for Wednesday.